Your slope is the most embarrassing part of your yard, and you know it. The grass won't hold. The mulch washes away every storm. The mower slides sideways every time you try. And every spring you stand at the bottom of it, staring up, wondering why nothing you plant ever actually stays. That ends in May. 13 perennials, 1 month, a slope so locked in, so covered in color, so completely transformed that your neighbors will think you hired a crew and graded the entire hillside. These plants grip the soil with their own roots. They cascade and spread on their own. They bloom from spring through frost without a single hose dragged uphill. And if you miss May, those roots never get the runway they need before summer heat. So don't waste another weekend losing soil to the next thunderstorm. Here's exactly what to plant right now. Plant 1. Creeping phlox. If you have ever driven past a hillside in late April that looked like someone poured paint down the slope, electric pink, soft lavender, deep magenta cascading across every inch of bare soil, you have seen exactly what this plant is built to do. And nothing else on the market does it the same way. Phlox subulata is hardy in Ooster zones 3 through 9, which covers nearly every region in the continental United States. It spreads outward 2 feet or more every season through trailing stems that root themselves wherever they touch the soil. That is the part that matters on a slope. Each rooted node is another anchor point holding your hillside in place. By year 3, 1 creeping phlox has become a living mat with dozens of independent root anchors gripping the surface. Highway departments use it on embankments specifically to eliminate erosion permanently. Plant it in full sun to light shade. Shear lightly after bloom. 1 cut keeps it dense and prevents the center from going woody. The foliage stays evergreen all winter. Your slope holds its structure even in January. Plant 2. Creeping thyme. Every footstep across your slope right now compacts bare soil, accelerates runoff, and kills whatever you tried to seed last spring. Creeping thyme is the only ground cover on this list that actively rewards being walked on. Thymus sapillum is hardy in zones 4 through 9, growing 2 to 3 inches tall in a dense, fragrant mat that releases a wave of herbal scent every time your foot brushes it. Tiny pink, lavender, or white flowers cover the entire mat in June and July. From a few feet away, it looks like the slope is in bloom. From a bee's perspective, it is one of the most concentrated nectar sources you can put in a residential yard. The root system is fibrous and shallow but extraordinarily dense. It binds the top 2 inches of soil into a living net that holds against the kind of summer downpour that strips bare slopes in minutes. Once established, it shades the soil so completely that weed seeds cannot germinate beneath it. Plant it in lean, poor soil. Rich, amended soil makes thyme leggy and weak. Give it the worst dirt on the slope and watch it thrive. Plant 3. Catmint Walker's Low. If your slope sits in full sun and bakes through July, this is the plant that turns that liability into the most elegant cascade in the neighborhood. Nepeta ex Fascini Walker's Low is hardy in zones 4 through 8. Lavender blue flowers over silvery grey aromatic foliage from late spring through midsummer, mounding to about 2 feet tall and spilling down a slope edge with zero training from you. It finds its own shape. The root system is deep and fibrous, anchoring it firmly into rocky, dry, marginal soil where almost nothing else holds. Cut it back hard by half immediately after the first bloom flush. It returns within 3 weeks, fuller and denser, with a complete second wave of bloom carrying through late summer. 2 full bloom seasons, 1 plant, 1 season, no extra cost. Deer evaluate plants by scent before they ever taste them. Catmint's aromatic oils repel deer at the approach stage before contact happens. While your neighbor reapplies spray repellent every 2 weeks, your catmint is the repellent, always on, every day, all season, year after year. 3 plants in. And I want to ask you something honestly. How many slopes in your yard have you given up on? The corner you stopped mowing 2 summers ago? The strip behind the garage you pretend not to see? Drop it in the comments below. Tell me where in the country you're gardening and which slope has defeated you the longest. Because I promise you, before this video ends, the exact answer to that problem is on this list. And if this kind of zone-specific, slope-tested information is what you came here for, hit subscribe right now. It costs you nothing, and it means the next video finds you the moment it goes live. Plant 4, hardy geranium roseanne. This is the most underused slope perennial in American home gardening right now, and the gardeners who already use it quietly hope their neighbors never figure it out. This is not the red annual sitting in a window box at the gas station. That plant dies at the first frost. Hardy geranium is a true perennial. It returns. It spreads. It blooms longer than any other geranium variety on the US market. Geranium roseanne is hardy in zones 5 through 8. Vivid blue-violet flowers with pale centers, blooming from late spring through October, 5 full months of continuous color from a single planting. Almost nothing else on this list can claim that bloom window. The mounding foliage spreads outward into a soft, dense ground cover that suppresses weeds beneath it and grips the slope through fibrous surface roots that knit the topsoil together. It handles full sun, partial shade, and that brutal dry shade strip under the maple tree where every other plant has died on you. Shear it back hard after the first big flush. It responds within 2 weeks with fresh foliage and a second wave of bloom that runs straight through frost. Plant 5, daylily. This plant grows in Alaska, it grows in Florida, it grows in the Arizona desert, and what almost nobody tells you is that the same fibrous tuberous root system that lets a daylily survive that range is the same root system that turns it into one of the most effective slope-binding perennials available to American gardeners. Hemerocallis is hardy in zones 1 through 11. Every state, every zone. The roots form a dense matted plate beneath the crown, thick, fibrous, locking together into a living net that holds soil against runoff and freeze-thaw heave. On a slope, that matters more than any other feature. Mass plant daylilies along a hillside in May, and by year 2, the root systems have begun knitting beneath the surface into a continuous structural layer. By year 3, that hillside no longer moves in heavy rain. The bloom is the bonus. Over 80,000 registered cultivars. Plant a mix of early, mid-season, and late varieties, and you get continuous waves from June through October. One critical warning: daylilies are acutely toxic to cats. Every part of the plant, including the pollen. If cats spend time in your yard, skip this one or fence it off. Plant 6, yarrow. This plant grows in gravel. It grows in cracked, dry hardpan. It grows on slopes where you have already killed 3 things and walked away in frustration. And then it blooms for 6 straight months without asking you for anything in return. Achillea millefolium is hardy in zones 3 through 9. Flat-topped flower clusters in yellow, white, pink, coral, and deep red, depending on cultivar. Coronation gold is the standout, introduced in the 1950s. It does not revert and holds its color for years. The foliage is feathery, silvery green, and intensely aromatic, exactly why deer and rabbits walk past without a glance. Yarrow releases natural allelopathic compounds into the surrounding soil, suppressing weed seed germination in the area around it. On a slope where weed pressure is highest because every wind-blown seed lands and germinates, that built-in suppression is structural. Rich amended soil makes yarrow floppy and weak. Poor, dry, rocky, neglected slope soil makes it stand taller and bloom harder than you thought possible. The root system is deep, branching, and fibrous, exactly the architecture a slope needs. Plant 7, sedum, sometimes called stonecrop. If you have a slope that bakes in afternoon sun, drains too fast, and holds no moisture by July, sedum is the plant biology was built for. Sedum spectabile, autumn joy, and the lower-growing creeping types like Angelina and Dragon's Blood are hardy in zones 3 through 9 across virtually every American climate. The leaves are succulent, thick, waxy, engineered to hold their own water reserves through weeks of drought that would kill almost anything else on this list. The creeping varieties form dense ground-covering mats 2 to 4 inches tall, spreading outward through stems that root wherever they touch soil. Those rooted contact points are slope anchors. Autumn joy and the upright types form clumping mounds that bloom from August through hard frost in deep rose pink that deepens to copper as the season ends. While every other perennial in your yard has finished, sedum is at peak. Bees, butterflies, and late-season pollinators converge on it when nothing else is open. Plant it in lean rocky soil. Skip fertilizer entirely. Sedum punishes generosity and rewards neglect. Plant 8. Lamb's ear. The leaves are covered in a dense layer of soft, silvery white woolly hair that feels exactly like its name suggests. Children stop when they pass it. Adults reach down without being invited to. Stachys byzantina is hardy in zones 4 through 8. The silver-white foliage creates visual contrast against virtually every other plant on a slope, making the purples deeper, the pinks softer, the reds more saturated. It is a living color amplifier that improves every plant placed near it. The same dense hair structure that gives the leaf its texture dramatically reduces moisture evaporation from the surface. Lamb's ear is not just drought tolerant by accident, it is drought engineered at the cellular level. On a hot, dry slope, while neighboring plants wilt and struggle, lamb's ear is managing its own water loss with a biological system more sophisticated than anything you could spray on it. It spreads through stolons, horizontal surface stems that extend outward and root at nodes as they travel. Every rooted node is another slope anchor. In zone 6 and warmer, it stays semi-evergreen through winter, holding ground-level structure when the rest of the yard has gone bare. 8 plants in. If you have made it this far, you are not a casual scroller. You are serious about fixing a slope that has wasted your money and your weekends for years. That is exactly what this channel is built for. Subscribe right now if you haven't already, and hit the bell, because the gardeners who subscribe today are the ones whose yards look completely different by this time next year. Plant 9. Russian sage. If your slope sits in blasting full sun on a south or west exposure, where the heat hits hardest from June through September, this is the plant that turns that exposure into the most striking architectural feature on your property. Perovskia atroplicifolia and the newer compact cultivar Denim and Lace is hardy in zones 4 through 9. Tall, airy spires of soft lavender blue rising above silvery white aromatic foliage, blooming from midsummer through October. The upright form gives the slope vertical structure that low ground covers cannot. Your hillside reads as a designed planting rather than a flat carpet. The root system is deep and woody, drilling down rather than spreading wide, which makes it ideal for the upper third of a slope where you need anchor plants that reach moisture deep in the bank. Russian sage is genuinely deer-proof. The aromatic oils are strong enough that deer will not even approach. It demands sharp drainage. Heavy clay that holds winter moisture rots the crown. Slopes solve that problem automatically. The drainage is in the geometry. This is one of the few plants on this list that performs better on a slope than on flat ground. Plant 10. Black-eyed Susan. This plant grows wild on American roadsides from Maine to Texas. You have driven past it your whole life, and people still pull into nurseries every May and pay $9 a pot for something nature has been growing for free along every highway in the country. The new disease-resistant cultivars, American Goldrush and Goldsturm, solve the leaf spot issue that frustrated gardeners with the older types. Rudbeckia is hardy in zones 3 through 9. Golden yellow petals, radiating from a deep chocolate center, blooming from July through October, exactly when most slope plantings start looking exhausted. It spreads two ways simultaneously. Underground rhizomes push outward beneath the soil, expanding the colony quietly without you seeing it. And the seed heads drop seeds that germinate the following spring. You plant one in May. By year 3, you have a sweeping colony you never touched. On a slope, that quiet expansion is exactly what you want. Leave the seed heads standing through winter. Goldfinches, sparrows, and chickadees feed on them from October through February. You are feeding wildlife at zero cost, while your neighbors buy plastic feeders. Plant 11. Coreopsis moonbeam. Soft buttery yellow daisy-like flowers sitting just above a fine feathery mound of foliage. Soft, elegant, and absolutely covered in blooms from June straight through October. Coreopsis verticillata moonbeam is hardy in zones 3 through 9. The 1992 Perennial Plant of the Year, a designation that means trial gardens across the country, verified it performs reliably across every American climate, not just the catalogue photo. What makes moonbeam exceptional for slopes is how it grows. It spreads by underground rhizomes that creep outward beneath the soil, quietly establishing new growth points season after season. Each new growth point is a fresh root anchor. By year 3, what started as one small plant is a flowing 2-foot wide colony pinning the slope in place. Heat tolerant, drought tolerant, thrives on neglect. Plant it in full sun, make sure the drainage is decent, then leave it alone. The soft lemon color reads beautifully against the deeper blues and purples of catmint and Russian sage planted upslope. Plant 12. Big root geranium. If your slope sits in dry shade, the notoriously stubborn condition under large established trees where surface roots compete aggressively for every available drop of moisture, this is the plant that solves it. Geranium macrorrhizum is hardy in zones 3 through 8. Soft pink to magenta flowers in May and June over deeply lobed aromatic foliage that turns rich bronze red in fall. The leaves release a clean, spicy fragrance when brushed. Deer and rabbits leave it completely alone. The root system is the slope anchor feature. Thick, fleshy, surface-running rhizomes that knit horizontally across the soil surface, forming a continuous mat that physically grips the slope and prevents erosion even on steep grades. That dark, dry corner under your oak or your maple, where every plant you have tried has died, big root geranium thrives there. Plant it in May, walk away, revisit in September. The slope will not look the same. In zone 6 and warmer, it stays semi-evergreen through winter, holding the slope when everything else has died back to bare soil. Plant 13. Little bluestem, saved for last, because it does something none of the previous 12 can do. It belongs here. Schizocerium scoparium is the native warm season grass of the American prairie, evolved over thousands of years on the same continent your slope sits on, hardy in zones 3 through 9 across virtually the entire country. 2 to 4 feet tall, slender blue-green stems through summer turning vivid copper orange and deep mahogany in fall, a color so saturated it stops cars when low autumn light catches it. The root system is the reason this plant earns the final spot. Little bluestem roots dive 5 to 8 feet straight down into the soil. 5 to 8 feet. That is deeper than nearly every other perennial available to American gardeners. On a slope, those deep fibrous roots don't just hold the surface, they anchor the entire bank against the kind of slope failure that happens after weeks of saturating rain. Little bluestem is also one of the most ecologically valuable grasses in North America, host plant for several skipper butterfly species, seeds eaten by sparrows and juncos through winter. Plant it in full sun in lean soil. The poorer the slope, the better it performs. Every plant on this list could be purchased in June, some of them later. So why does May matter so much? Because of what happens underground before you see anything happening above ground. In May, soil temperatures across most American growing zones sit between 55 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the precise biological window where perennial root systems establish fastest, drive deepest, and develop the anchoring structure a slope plant needs to survive its first summer. Plant in May, and roots have 6 to 8 full weeks of cool, moist soil to push downward and outward before peak summer heat arrives. Miss that window. Plant in late June or July, and those same roots are trying to establish in hot, dry, stressed soil while simultaneously supporting a plant trying to bloom above ground. Establishment slows. The plant survives but does not thrive, and on a slope where every plant is fighting gravity and runoff, first season establishment determines everything. Every slope perennial planted in May will root deeper, spread further, and grip the bank more permanently than the identical plant planted 6 weeks later. May is a biological window with a closing date. And it is open right now. Before you plant a single thing, 3 rules determine whether everything you do this May succeeds or washes downhill by August. Rule 1. Plant from the top down. Every spreading perennial on this list moves outward and downward over time. Plant your top row first along the crest, then work downward in staggered rows. Gravity does the rest of the design work. Rule 2. Mulch with shredded hardwood, never with bark nuggets. Smooth bark mulch slides down a slope in the first heavy rain and ends up in a pile at the bottom. Shredded hardwood interlocks into a fibrous mat that grips the slope and holds in place through even the heaviest storm. Apply it 3 inches deep around new plantings. Rule 3. Water with a slow soaker hose, never a sprinkler. A sprinkler on a slope wastes most of the water as runoff before it reaches the root zone. A soaker hose laid along the contour delivers water directly into the soil where roots can use it. The first 6 weeks after planting are the only critical window. After that, every plant on this list takes care of itself. You just spent time learning 13 plants that will lock down a slope, fill it with color from May through frost, and keep changing it, keep improving it for years from now without you having to start over every spring. That is not just a gardening video. That is a plan. A real specific, actionable plan for a hillside that takes care of itself and rewards you more every single season. If this gave you even one plant you are putting in the ground this May, subscribe right now. Every single week, this channel releases content at this level. Real plant knowledge, real zone-specific guidance, real information that saves you money. The gardeners who subscribed at the beginning of this video are already ahead. Join them right now. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and before you go, drop one comment below. Tell me which plant from this list you are putting on your slope first this May, and tell me what state or zone you are gardening in. I read every single comment. This is your slope. This is your season. May is open right now.